This video is recorded to help my students to understand how to do Project 1. In this video, I will give two examples that are similar to two examples we asked in Project 1. So first, we open a text editor. I use text edit to write the program. I first write down the commands. The commands are put in parentheses star and star parentheses. So in this example, we write two functions. Function 1 is a sum function, which take an integer as input, return the result of type integer. So the return value is 1 plus 2 plus up to n. Of course, we assume n is non-negative. So the second function is called minimum function. Take an integer list as input, return the result is an integer. This return result is a minimum value of all the integers in the list. The function did not behave well if the list is empty. So the student need to understand that the ML heavily use recursive think. So every time you want to solve a problem, you need to ask yourself, how can I recursively solve this problem? For example, in order to add 1, 2, up to n, how can I recursively solve this? Suppose I already know the sum from 1, 2, up to n minus 1. Then the sum from 1, 2, up to n is just n plus the sum of 1 plus 2 plus up to n minus 1. So that's give me recursive think. I use the sum to define the sum. And the base case is when n equals 0, of course the sum is 0. So that gives us a hint. The function sum of x, 1 plus 2 plus up to x, if x is 0, then the result is 0. Else, the result is simply just x plus the sum from 1, 2 up to x minus 1. So this is my first function. To test your function right or not, you can first save your file. You will save to the place you wanted to save it. Suppose I save it as example 1. If it already exists, I replace it. So this is my example 1. Okay. Then I need to run to test this function. To test it, I need to open a terminal window. Suppose I open a terminal window. Then I need to navigate to the folder that I save this program. So the folder I save is in the documents and videos and the CSCI 461. If I type ls, I can see exam1.sml is there. So after I navigate to the folder where I save the program, I just type sml, so enter sml model. Now I type use example1.sml. Then it tells me the function sum is defined, is an integer to integer. So now let's test. We know the sum of 1 plus 2 plus up to 100 is 5050. Let us test this sum 100, 5050. That means our program is correct. So now let's do the second one. Second one give you a list, ask you to find the minimum value of this list. So let's first write a function called minimum helper. What does this function do? This function, if you give me a list and another value a, I want to find the minimum of the list elements and the a together. Who is the minimum? Okay, in this case, I use recursive think. So the recursive think is this. If a is less than, if the list x is empty, then the minimum between a and all the elements in the list x is just a, right? So the first case, if x is empty, okay, then the result is just a. Else if, now what else case I can have? If the head of x is greater than a. So if the head of x is greater than a, that means head of x cannot be the minimum of all the x elements under a, right? So then the result will be mean hyper of tail of x under a. Okay, so the head of x can be thrown away. Else when you reach else, which means the head of x is less than a, the result will be meaning hyper is just the tail of x under the head of x. Okay, so basically it says I still use recursive sync, right? So I write a hyperfunction first. This hyperfunction is you give me a list and give me an element. So I will try to say find the minimum between this all the list elements and this given element. So if the list is empty, of course, the minimum is this given element. Else, if the list head is bigger, so that means list head should not be in your consideration. So there is just a minimum from the tail of the list and this element A. Now, if the list head is smaller, so A will not be under consideration. So I only consider the head of X and the tail of the X, who will be the smallest one. After I have this hyperfunction work, then I can write my meaning function is if you give me a list, then I just need to say tail of this list and head of this list. So basically, you can say I need to find the minimum between the head of the list and the tail of the list. All those things together, use the meaning hyper to find the minimum. Okay. Now again, let's save this function file. Then let us go to the. Actually, I can just access from here. So again, I reuse example 1.sml. Now you see the minimum function is there. Now let us test. Suppose I give a list 1, 3, 5, 2. Now we know the minimum supposed to be 1. Yes, it works perfectly. Okay, if you have any questions, please send me email.